The first sign my marriage was dying came at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, when I caught my wife Julia giggling at her phone like a teenager. Not the polite chuckle she gave my jokes anymore, but genuine laughter that lit up her face in ways I hadn't seen in months. "What's so funny?" I asked, rolling over in our king-sized bed that suddenly felt like an ocean between us. She slammed the phone face down faster than a poker player hiding aces. "Just Sarah being Sarah. You know how she is?" Sarah was her college roommate who lived in Portland and posted pictures of her cats. Sarah had never made anyone giggle at 2:47 a.m. in her entire life. "I'm Alex Carter, 38 years old, and I fix people's computer problems for a living. It's not glamorous, but it pays for our suburban paradise in Millfield Heights, the kind of neighborhood where everyone drives SUVs and pretends their marriages are Instagram perfect. I've always been the observant type. Probably comes with the territory of debugging code all day. You learn to spot patterns, inconsistencies, things that don't add up. Julia's behavior had been full of inconsistencies lately. "How was work today?" I asked the next morning, watching her apply lipstick she'd never worn to the marketing firm before. Same old stuff. Boring campaigns, demanding clients. She checked her reflection twice in the hallway mirror. "I might be late tonight. Big presentation to prep for." "Which client?" A pause. Just half a second, but I caught it. "The restaurant group. You wouldn't know them." I knew every client her firm had worked with for the past 3 years. She used to complain about them over dinner every night. There was no restaurant group. Our son Max looked up from his cereal. At 15, he'd inherited my talent for reading people and his mother's ability to keep his mouth shut when it mattered. The look he gave me said he'd noticed the changes too. "Dad, can you drive me to school today?" he asked, even though Julia always handled the morning run. "Of course, buddy." Julia barely kissed my cheek goodbye. Her perfume was different too, something expensive and floral instead of her usual vanilla scent. The perfume I'd bought her for our anniversary sat untouched on her dresser. After dropping Max off, I sat in my home office staring at lines of code, but my mind kept wandering. Julia worked for a small marketing firm downtown, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business. Her boss, Patricia, was a friend of ours. We'd had dinner at their house just last month. I called Patricia. "Alex, how are you? How's Julia?" "That's actually why I'm calling. She mentioned working late on some big restaurant presentation, and I wanted to surprise her with dinner. Do you know what time she might wrap up?" Silence. Then, "Alex, honey, Julia left early today. Said she had a dentist appointment." My blood turned to ice water. "Oh, right, the dentist. I got my wires crossed." "Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine. Thanks, Patricia." I hung up and stared at the wall. My wife of 16 years, the mother of my child, the woman who'd promised to love me through sickness and health, was lying to me with the casual ease of a professional con artist. The smart thing would have been to confront her immediately. The mature thing would have been marriage counseling. But I've never been accused of being particularly smart or mature when someone tries to play me for a fool. Instead, I decided to run a little test. My friend Mikhail owns a construction company and looks like he stepped off the cover of a romance novel. 6'2", built like a linebacker with the kind of rugged charm that makes married women forget their vows. He also happens to be completely trustworthy and utterly loyal to his friends. "You want me to what?" Mikhail asked when I explained my plan over beers at Murphy's Pub. "Just flirt with her a little, see how she reacts. If I'm wrong, she'll shut you down immediately and probably tell me about it later. If I'm right, and if you're right, you'll know for sure she's cheating." "I already know she's cheating, Mick. I just need to know how far she's willing to go." The opportunity came the following Saturday at our neighbor's barbecue. Julia spent an hour getting ready, changing outfits 3 times before settling on a sundress that showed off her legs and a neckline that was just shy of inappropriate for a suburban cookout. Mikhail arrived fashionably late, bringing expensive wine and his most charming smile. I watched from across the patio as he approached Julia, who was standing with her usual crew of gossip-hungry friends. "Julia, you look absolutely stunning," he said, taking her hand and kissing it like some kind of European prince. "That dress should be illegal." Any faithful wife would have laughed it off, made a joke, maybe mentioned her husband. Julia blushed like a schoolgirl and moved closer to him. "Mikhail, you're terrible," she giggled, but she didn't pull her hand away. I watched them for the next hour, watched her laugh at his jokes, touch his arm when she talked, lean in close when he whispered something in her ear, watched her act like a single woman at a singles bar instead of a married mother at a neighborhood barbecue. When Mikhail asked for her number to discuss some marketing ideas for his business, she gave it to him without hesitation. I felt something die inside my chest. Not my heart. That would have been too dramatic. More like the last bit of respect I'd had for the woman I'd married. "How'd I do?" Mikhail asked later, finding me by the beer cooler. "Like a pro. She give you her number?" He nodded grimly. "I'm sorry, Alex. I was hoping I'd be wrong." "You and me both." That night, Julia was more affectionate than she'd been in months. Guilty conscience, probably. She snuggled up to me on the couch during a movie, ran her fingers through my hair, even initiated sex for the first time in weeks. All the while, her phone buzzed with text messages she ignored until she thought I was asleep. I lay there in the dark, listening to her thumbs tapping against the screen, and planned my next move. The thing about being an IT consultant is that you learn a lot about digital security. You learn about tracking software, about recovering deleted messages, about all the ways people think they're being clever when they're actually leaving digital breadcrumbs everywhere. You also learn that most of this knowledge is completely useless in a marriage unless you want to become the kind of person who spies on their spouse. I'd always sworn I'd never be that guy. Desperate times, desperate measures. Julia's laptop was password protected, but she'd been using the same password for everything since college, Max 2008, the year our son was born. Her email revealed nothing obvious, but her browser history told a different story. Restaurant websites, hotel reviews, articles about rekindling romance, and finding yourself after 40. Her social media was more revealing. Private messages with her friend Tara about finally feeling alive again, and remembering what passion feels like. References to someone who really sees me for who I am and makes me feel beautiful again. But it was her phone that held the real treasure. She'd synced it to the laptop for backup, which meant every text, every call, every photo was sitting right there in the cloud storage she'd forgotten existed. The name that appeared most frequently in her recent messages wasn't Mikhail. It was Michael Foster. Michael fucking Foster. Her college boyfriend. The one who'd broken her heart senior year by choosing his career over their relationship. The one she'd cried over for months until she met me. The one she'd sworn she was completely over and never wanted to see again. Apparently, never was a shorter time than I'd thought. Their message thread went back 3 months. It started innocently enough. He'd reached out after seeing her on social media, just wanted to catch up. How was married life treating her? But it escalated quickly into territory that made my stomach turn. Michael, you look incredible in your photos. Marriage agrees with you. Julia, you always were a charmer. Some things never change. Michael, I think about you sometimes. Wonder what would have happened if I'd made different choices. Julia, we can't change the past, but we can control our future. And then, just last week, I can't stop thinking about our lunch yesterday. You're even more beautiful than I remembered. Alex is a lucky man. Julia, sometimes I wonder if I settled too quickly. You always challenged me, pushed me to be better. I miss that. Michael, it's not too late to have the life you deserve, Jules. You know I never stopped loving you. I read through months of messages, watching my marriage dissolve in real time. The progression from innocent nostalgia to emotional affair to plans for a physical relationship was laid out like a roadmap to betrayal. The most recent exchange was from that morning, Michael. Can't wait to see you tonight. I've booked us a room at the Marriott downtown. Julia, I told Alex I'm working late. We have until midnight. Michael, I'm going to show you what you've been missing all these years. Julia, I already know. That's why I can't stop thinking about you. I sat there staring at the screen, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut by a heavyweight boxer. 16 years of marriage, a son we'd raised together, a life we'd built from nothing, and she was ready to throw it all away for a man who'd already proven he'd choose himself over her when it mattered. The rational part of my brain knew I should feel devastated. I should be crying or breaking things or calling a lawyer. Instead, I felt something cold and calculating settle into my chest. Something that whispered about payback and justice and making sure everyone knew exactly who Julia Carter really was. I screenshot every message, every photo, every piece of evidence. Then I sat back and waited for my wife to come home from her late night at the office. She walked in at 12:47 a.m., her hair slightly mussed, her lipstick gone, smelling like unfamiliar cologne and lies. How was work? I asked from the couch, not looking up from my laptop. Exhausting. That presentation kicked my ass. She yawned dramatically. I'm going to shower and head straight to bed. Julia? Yeah? We need to talk tomorrow. About us. About our future. She froze halfway up the stairs. What do you mean? I looked up at her then, letting her see something in my eyes that made her take a step back. I mean, it's time we were honest with each other about what we really want. She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw the exact second she decided to double down on her lies instead of coming clean. Okay, she said, we can talk tomorrow. But tomorrow would be too late for talking. Tomorrow would be the day Julia Carter learned that some people shouldn't be underestimated. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The next morning, Julia tried to act normal. She made coffee, asked about my day, even suggested we take Max to dinner over the weekend like we were still a happy family. The performance might have been convincing if I hadn't spent the night reading about her plans to finally be with someone who appreciates me. I waited until Max left for school. No point in him witnessing what was about to happen. So, I said, settling into my chair at the kitchen table with my laptop open, let's have that talk. Julia poured herself a second cup of coffee, her movements careful and controlled. What's on your mind? I've been thinking about our marriage lately, about whether we're both getting what we need from this relationship. She sat across from me, and I caught a flicker of something in her eyes. Relief, maybe, like she thought I was about to make this easy for her. I've been thinking the same thing, she said carefully. We've grown apart, haven't we? Sometimes I wonder if we want different things now. Different things like what? Like, I don't know, adventure, passion, someone who really sees me for who I am. There it was, almost word for word what she'd texted to Michael. Someone who challenges you, pushes you to be better. Her eyes widened slightly. Yes, exactly. You understand. Someone who makes you feel like you deserve more than what you have. Alex, where is this going? I turned the laptop around so she could see the screen. Her text conversation with Michael filled the display, including the messages from the night before. The color drained from her face like someone had pulled a plug. How did you went through my phone? Your laptop, actually. Cloud backup is a wonderful thing. Though I have to say, your operational security needs work. Using the same password for everything? That's IT 101, Jules. She stared at the screen, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. I'd seen that look before, usually on clients who just realized they'd lost years of work because they didn't back up their files. I can explain, she said finally. Please do. I'm particularly interested in your explanation for last night's presentation at the Marriott downtown. The coffee cup slipped from her hands and shattered on the kitchen floor. Neither of us moved to clean it up. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You're having an affair with Michael Foster. You've been lying to me for months. You told him you settled when you married me and that you deserve better. I kept my voice calm, conversational. Did I miss anything important? Tears started streaming down her face. Alex, please, let me explain. It just happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Which part just happened? The part where you gave Mikhail your number at the barbecue, or the part where you've been planning to leave me for a man who dumped you 20 years ago? You had Mikhail hit on me. Her voice cracked with outrage. You set me up? I tested your loyalty. You failed spectacularly. She stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. This is insane. You're acting like some kind of stalker, going through my private messages, manipulating me with your friend. This isn't the man I married. You're right. The man you married was naive enough to trust you. The man you married would have believed your lies about working late and dental appointments. The man you married wouldn't have noticed you wearing new perfume to seduce your ex-boyfriend. I never meant to hurt you. But you did it anyway. For months. Every lie, every fake smile, every time you came home from fucking another man and pretended to be my loving wife. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Don't be crude. Crude? You want to talk about crude? Let's talk about this message. I scrolled to one of their more explicit exchanges. Should I read it out loud, or do you remember what you told Michael you wanted him to do to you? Stop it. Or this one, where you described in detail what was wrong with our sex life and how much better he was at. I said stop it! She was crying harder now, mascara running down her cheeks in black streams. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to hold her and pretend none of this had happened. That part was getting smaller by the minute. Here's what's going to happen, I said, closing the laptop. You're going to call Michael right now and tell him it's over. You're going to end whatever this is, and we're going to try to salvage our marriage for Max's sake. Hope flickered in her eyes. You'd really give me another chance? I'm willing to try, but it has to end completely. No more contact with Michael, no more lies, no more sneaking around, full transparency from now on. She nodded eagerly. Yes, of course. I'll call him right now. I'll tell him it was a mistake. I handed her my phone. Put it on speaker. Alex, that's not necessary. Speakerphone, Julia. If you're serious about ending this, you won't mind me hearing you do it. Her hands shook as she dialed Michael's number. It rang twice before his smooth voice filled our kitchen. Jules, I was just thinking about you. Last night was incredible. I can't remember the last time I felt so... Michael, stop. Julia's voice was barely above a whisper. I can't do this anymore. A pause. What do you mean? Did something happen? Did Alex find out? I leaned forward, interested to hear how she'd handle this. I need to think about my family, about Max. This is all moving too fast. Baby, we talked about this. You said you were ready to leave him. You said you wanted to be with someone who really loves you. I know what I said, but what? Are you getting cold feet? Jules, I left my girlfriend for you. I told you I wanted to marry you this time, give you the life you deserve. Don't tell me you're backing out now. Julia's eyes met mine across the table. I could see her weighing her options, trying to decide which life she wanted more. I need more time, she said finally. Michael's laugh was harsh. Time for what? To keep playing house with a man who doesn't appreciate you? Jules, you're 46 years old. How much time do you think you have left to be happy? Don't say that. It's the truth. You told me yourself that Alex is boring, that he doesn't challenge you, that you feel like you're dying a slow death in suburbia. Was that all lies? I watched my wife's face as her lover threw her own words back at her. Words she'd never said to me, but had apparently said to him. No, she whispered. It wasn't lies. Then what are we talking about here? You want to go back to your dead marriage and pretend to be happy for the next 20 years? I don't know what I want anymore. I know what you want. You want adventure. You want passion. You want a man who sees you as more than just a wife and mother. You want me, Jules. You always have. The silence stretched between them. I could practically hear her resolve crumbling. Michael, she said softly. Leave him, today. Pack your things and come stay with me. We'll figure out the rest later. I can't just abandon my son. You're not abandoning him. You're showing him what it looks like when someone fights for their happiness. Kids are resilient, Jules. Max will understand. I'd heard enough. I took the phone from Julia's numb fingers. Hello, Michael. Dead silence. This is Alex Carter, Julia's husband. I've been listening to your little pep talk about stealing my wife. Alex, this isn't what it sounds like. Really. Because it sounds like you're trying to convince my wife to abandon her family for a man who dumped her the first time things got complicated. But please, correct me if I'm wrong. Look, man, I never meant for this to happen. Julia and I have history, and when we reconnected... When you seduced a married woman, you mean. She's not happy, Alex. She hasn't been happy for years. Maybe instead of blaming me, you should ask yourself why your wife was looking for something you couldn't give her. The arrogance in his voice made my blood boil. You're right, Michael. I should have asked myself that question months ago. But here's a better question. What makes you think a woman who cheats on her husband won't cheat on you? That's different. We love each other. She loved me too. Once, promised to forsake all others, in sickness and health, till death do us part. How'd that work out? Julia was staring at me with wide eyes, like she was seeing me for the first time. Julia's a grown woman, Michael said. She can make her own choices. You're absolutely right. Julia, Michael wants to know what you choose. Your family or him? Right now. No more time to think about it. She looked back and forth between the phone and me, tears streaming down her face. She started, then stopped. Choose, Julia. I can't. This isn't fair. You can't make me decide like this. Life isn't fair, I said. But choices have consequences. Michael, are you still there? I'm here. Julia's having trouble deciding between her family and her boyfriend. What do you think that says about how much she really loves you? Another pause. When Michael spoke again, his voice had changed. Colder. You know what, Jules? Maybe Alex is right. Maybe you're not ready for this. Maybe you're not the woman I thought you were. Michael, please. I thought you were brave enough to fight for what you wanted. I thought you were strong enough to choose love over convenience. But you're just another suburban housewife who talks big, but doesn't have the guts to actually change her life. That's not true, isn't it? You've been complaining about your marriage for months, telling me how miserable you are, how much you want out. But when push comes to shove, you'd rather stay in your comfortable little prison than take a chance on something real. Julia was sobbing now. Michael, don't do this. I love you. If you loved me, this wouldn't be a choice. If you loved me, you would have left him already. Face it, Jules. You're exactly where you want to be. The line went dead. Julia stared at the phone like it might ring again, like Michael might call back and take it all back. But I knew men like Michael Foster. They didn't like being inconvenienced, and they definitely didn't like being made to look foolish. "Well," I said, setting the phone on the table, "that was illuminating." "He'll call back," she said desperately. "He's just upset. He didn't mean those things." "He meant every word. You know how I know? Because he's the same man who dumped you in college when his career became more important than your relationship. Leopards don't change their spots, Jules." She collapsed into her chair, her whole body shaking with sobs. "What have I done? What have I done? You made your choice. Multiple times, actually. You chose to lie to me. You chose to betray our marriage. You chose to put another man before your family. I can fix this. I can make it right." I looked at my wife, really looked at her, and realized I was staring at a stranger. The woman I'd married would never have done this. The woman I'd married had integrity, loyalty, strength. This broken person crying in my kitchen was someone else entirely. "No, Julia, you can't fix this. Some things, once broken, can't be put back together." She looked up at me with desperate eyes. "So, what happens now?" I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at our perfect suburban street with its perfect suburban houses, hiding their perfect suburban secrets. "Now you get to live with the consequences of your choices, and so do I." The coffee cup was still shattered on the floor between us, and neither of us made any move to clean it up. 3 days passed in cold silence. Julia tried to apologize, tried to explain, tried to seduce me back into forgiveness. I responded to her attempts with the emotional warmth of a computer server, functional, but utterly without feeling. She slept in the guest room. I changed all the passwords on our shared accounts. Max pretended not to notice the Arctic temperature in our house, but I caught him watching us with worried eyes. On Thursday evening, everything exploded. I was in my office when I heard Julia on the phone in the kitchen, her voice low and desperate. Against my better judgment, I crept close enough to listen. "Please, just talk to me for 5 minutes. I know you're angry, but we can work through this." "Michael, don't hang up. I left him. I'm staying at my sister's place." "That's not true. I fought for us. I chose you, but Alex manipulated the whole situation." I walked into the kitchen. She was pacing by the window, phone pressed to her ear, spinning a completely different version of our confrontation. "He tricked me, made me think I had to choose right that second. But I'm choosing now. I'm choosing you. What do you mean it's too late? Michael, I love you. I left my husband for you." She saw me standing there and had the grace to look ashamed for about half a second. "I have to go," she said into the phone. "But this isn't over. We belong together, and you know it." She hung up and faced me with defiant eyes. "Let me guess," I said. "You told him you left me." "I did leave you. I'm staying at Rebecca's." "You're staying at Rebecca's because I changed the locks, not because you made some grand romantic gesture. The result is the same." I almost laughed. "Julia, you just heard him reject you again. How many times does this man have to choose something else over you before you get the message? He's just scared. This is all happening so fast." "He's not scared. He's done. You were fun when you were a secret, but now that you're available, you're not nearly as interesting." Her face flushed with anger. "You don't know anything about Michael. You don't know what we have together." "I know he's already moved on. I know he's probably telling his friends about the crazy married woman who threw away her family for him and then got upset when he wouldn't do the same. You're wrong." "Am I? Call him back. Right now. Ask him to meet you for dinner tonight." She hesitated, which told me everything I needed to know. "You already tried that, didn't you?" He said no. Tears started flowing again. "He just needs time to process everything. He had 3 months to process while you were sneaking around behind my back. Face it, Jules. You gambled everything on a man who was never going to choose you, and you lost. At least I took a chance. At least I tried to find something better than this." She gestured around our kitchen like it was a prison cell. "Do you know what it's like being married to someone who never surprises you? Someone who's perfectly content with the same routine, day after day, year after year? Do you know what it's like being married to someone who lies to your face every day for months? Someone who comes home from fucking another man and asks how your day went? I never meant for it to go that far. But it did go that far. You made that choice every single day, every text, every lie, every time you looked me in the eye and pretended to love me while planning your exit strategy." She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was small and broken. "I did love you. I do love you. But I'm not the same person I was when we got married. I want more than this life can give me." "What more do you want, Julia? Really, spell it out for me." I want to feel alive again. I want passion, adventure, someone who makes me feel beautiful and desired and special. You want to feel like you're 25 again. Is that so wrong? I looked at this woman I'd spent 16 years of my life loving, and I felt something shift inside my chest. Not heartbreak, that had already happened. This was something colder and more final. No, I said quietly. It's not wrong to want those things. But it was wrong to try to get them while you were still married to me. It was wrong to lie and cheat and betray our family instead of having the courage to ask for a divorce. Would you have given me one if I'd asked? The question caught me off guard. Would I have fought for our marriage if she'd come to me honestly? Would I have tried counseling, date nights, romantic getaways? I guess we'll never know, I said. Alex, please, can't we try to work through this, for Max's sake? Max deserves better than parents who stay together out of obligation. He deserves better than a mother who thinks so little of her family that she's willing to throw them away for a man who doesn't even want her. She flinched like I'd hit her. That's cruel. It's honest, something you might want to try sometime. The front door slammed, and we heard Max's backpack hit the floor in the hallway. Mom? Dad? I'm home. Julia wiped her eyes quickly and tried to compose herself, but Max had inherited my observational skills and his mother's emotional intelligence. He took one look at us and knew something major had happened. What's going on? He asked, his voice carefully neutral. Julia and I looked at each other. We'd talked about how to handle this conversation, but that was before Michael's rejection, before her desperate phone calls, before everything had spiraled completely out of control. Sit down, buddy, I said. We need to talk to you about something. Max sat at the kitchen table, his eyes moving between us like he was watching a tennis match. Smart kid. He probably already knew what was coming. Your mom and I are getting divorced, I said simply. No point in sugarcoating it. Max nodded slowly. Because she's been cheating on you. Julia gasped. Max! I'm not stupid, Mom. You've been acting weird for months. New clothes, new perfume, always on your phone. Plus, Mrs. Henderson saw you at that hotel downtown last week with some guy who definitely wasn't Dad. Our neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, was the unofficial neighborhood watch commander. Of course, she'd seen them. I'm sorry you found out that way, Julia said, reaching for his hand. Max pulled away. I'm not sorry I found out. I'm sorry you did it. Honey, sometimes adults make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake, Mom. Mistakes are when you forget to pick me up from practice or burn dinner. This was a choice. A lot of choices. The kid was 15 and had more moral clarity than his mother. You don't understand how complicated adult relationships can be, Julia tried again. I understand that you promised to love Dad forever, and you broke that promise. I understand that you lied to both of us every day for months. I understand that you chose some other guy over your own family. Julia started crying again. Max, please. I love you so much. This has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me. You think I want to live with someone I can't trust? You think I want to spend weekends with you and your boyfriend pretending like everything's fine? Michael isn't... We're not... It's complicated. No, it's not, Max said, his voice hard. It's simple. You wanted something else more than you wanted us. So go get it. He stood up and headed for the stairs. Max, wait, Julia called after him. He turned back, and I saw tears in his eyes for the first time. I used to be proud of you, Mom. I used to tell my friends how cool you were, how much you and Dad loved each other. Now I just feel embarrassed. He disappeared upstairs, leaving Julia sobbing at the kitchen table. He'll come around, she said through her tears. Kids are resilient. He'll understand when he's older. Will he? Or will he grow up knowing his mother was willing to abandon him for a man who didn't even want her? Stop saying that. Michael does want me. He's just confused right now. Julia, listen to yourself. You're sitting in the wreckage of your family, your son won't even look at you, and you're still fantasizing about a man who hung up on you an hour ago. I can fix this. I can fix all of this. How? Michael's made it clear he's done with you. Max doesn't trust you. I sure as hell don't trust you. What exactly are you going to fix? She wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders, and for a moment I saw a flash of the strong woman I'd married. I'm going to fight for what I want. I'm going to prove to Michael that I'm serious about us, and I'm going to show you and Max that some things are worth taking risks for. What does that mean? It means I'm not giving up on any of it. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Where are you going? To get my life back. The door slammed behind her, leaving me alone in the kitchen with the shattered coffee cup still on the floor and the smell of her desperation lingering in the air. I climbed the stairs and knocked on Max's door. Come in. He was lying on his bed, staring at the ceiling. You okay, buddy? Are you okay, Dad? I sat on the edge of his bed. Honestly, no, but I will be. Do you still love her? It was a fair question. Did I still love the woman who'd betrayed our family? Or did I just love the memory of who she used to be? I love the person I thought she was, I said finally. But that person might not have existed for a long time. She's really not coming back, is she? I don't think so. Not the way things were. Max was quiet for a long moment. Good, he said finally. I don't think I could pretend everything was normal again. You won't have to pretend anything. Whatever happens next, we'll deal with it honestly. Promise? Promise. I left him to process everything and went back downstairs to finally clean up that broken coffee cup. As I swept up the pieces, I wondered where Julia had gone and what she planned to do to get her life back. I didn't have to wonder long. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Michael. Your wife is at my apartment. She's not leaving until we talk this through. I thought you should know. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, She's not my wife anymore. She's your problem now. But even as I sent it, I knew it wasn't that simple. Julia wasn't done burning bridges, and something told me the worst was yet to come. I didn't hear from Julia for 2 days. Then, on Saturday morning, she showed up at our front door looking like she'd been through a blender. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, and her eyes had the wild look of someone who'd been running on desperation and caffeine. We need to talk, she said, pushing past me into the house. Max is upstairs, I warned her. Good. He should hear this too. She called for our son, who appeared at the top of the stairs with obvious reluctance. Come down here, honey. Both of you need to know what's been happening. Max descended slowly, like he was walking to his own execution. We all ended up in the living room, Julia pacing while Max and I sat on the couch. I went to see Michael, she began. We know, Max said flatly. He texted Dad. Julia's eyes flashed with anger. He told you I was there? He told me you weren't leaving until he talked to you. Sounded like a hostage situation to me. I wasn't holding him hostage. I was fighting for our relationship. How'd that work out? I asked, though her appearance already told me the answer. He's scared. This whole situation has him spooked, but underneath all that fear, he still loves me. We talked for hours about our future together. And he needs time. Space to think about what he really wants. Max and I exchanged a look. Julia was deep in denial territory now. So he kicked you out, Max said. He asked me to give him some space to process everything. It's different. Mom, you look like you slept in your car. I stayed at a hotel. I needed time to think too. What did you think about? I asked. She stopped pacing and faced us both. I thought about what I really want, what would make me happy, and I realized something important. Here it comes, I thought. I want it all. I want Michael, but I also want my family. I want my son in my life. And I want... She looked at me with something that might have been hope. I want us to find a way to make this work. Make what work exactly? I want to try an open marriage. The words hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Max's mouth fell open. I just stared at her. An open marriage, I repeated slowly. People do it all the time. We could stay married, stay a family, but have the freedom to pursue other relationships. You could find someone too, if you wanted. You want to stay married to Dad while you date your boyfriend? Max asked, his voice rising with disbelief. It's not that simple, honey. Adult relationships are complicated. Stop saying that, Max exploded. Stop acting like this is some sophisticated arrangement that I'm too young to understand. You want to have your cake and eat it too. You want to keep the security of being married while screwing around with other men. Max, language. Language? You're worried about my language? Mom, you just asked Dad if you could cheat on him legally. It wouldn't be cheating if we both agreed to it. I found my voice. Julia, are you completely insane? I'm trying to find a solution that works for everyone. A solution where you get everything you want and everyone else gets to live with your choices. That's not fair. Fair? I stood up, anger finally breaking through my calm facade. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been asking for a divorce before you started fucking your ex-boyfriend. Fair would have been thinking about your son before you decided to blow up his family. Fair would have been showing me enough respect to end our marriage before you started shopping for a replacement. I never wanted to replace you. Yes, you did. You wanted to trade up. You wanted someone more exciting, more successful, more everything. The only reason you're here now is because Michael doesn't want you. That's not true, isn't it? If Michael had asked you to marry him, would you be standing here proposing an open marriage? or would you be serving me divorce papers? She didn't answer, which was an answer in itself. Here's what's actually happening, I continued. Michael rejected you, but you can't accept that. So you're trying to keep me as a backup plan while you work on convincing him to take you back. You want me to subsidize your affair? It's not an affair if we're both honest about it. It's not honest if you're only telling half the truth. Did you mention this open marriage idea to Michael? Does he know you want to stay married to me while you're with him? Her silence was deafening. Of course you didn't tell him, because you know he'd see it for what it is, you hedging your bets. You want to keep your comfortable suburban life while you chase your fantasy romance. Michael will come around. He just needs to see that I'm serious about choosing him. By staying married to another man? By showing him that I'm willing to restructure my entire life to be with him. Max stood up abruptly. I can't listen to any more of this. Mom, you've lost your mind. Dad, don't even consider this insane plan. He headed for the stairs, then turned back. And Mom, if you think I'm going to spend weekends watching you play house with some guy who doesn't even want you, you're wrong. I'll live with Dad full-time before I'll be part of whatever this is. He went upstairs, leaving Julia and me alone. I told her our son would remember that she chose herself over his stability. She insisted she wanted a compromise, but I said it was just her trying to keep an affair without consequences. I gave her two honest options. End Michael and try counseling, or get divorced and be with him. No open marriage, no backup plan. When she claimed she might be pregnant to pressure me, I called it out as manipulation. She admitted she wasn't pregnant. I told her to get out and said she could file for divorce. But she couldn't live in my house while chasing another man. She left, threatening to take everything. My son heard it all, told me he was proud I didn't fall for it, and asked what happens now. I said we move on. Just him and me. But I knew the fight wasn't over.